Here. Well, hello and welcome. This is a special bonus live because I really wanted to talk about the Sober Summit. So I brought in Maggie Klaassen, the organizer of the Sober Summit, so she can tell you all about her plans, the speakers that will be of great interest to you. And then we're going to, of course, put links down below on how to connect and how to talk with folks. If you have any questions, I can see most of you. So if you have any questions, pop those up and we would love to hear from you. So Maggie, take it away. Tell us a little bit more about what the Sober Summit is.
Yeah, so this is a special holiday edition of the Sober Summit. So we ran the first Sober Summit in April of this year, and I had such great feedback from everyone. It was really incredible. I got incredible feedback from people all around the world, which was really interesting to me. So it wasn't just, the US that struggles with, alcohol. It's literally a worldwide problem. And so, yeah, I had so much fun doing it too. I got to interview some incredible speakers and people in this space. And for me, it was just a lot of fun. So I got to then, it was kind of like my own little mini hour one-on-one personal coaching sessions with these people too. It's helped me a lot in my own sober journey. And so the thought of really going another year before I did again didn't feel great. I really wanted to, as soon as it's over, I was like, okay, when's the next one? Let's do this again. So yeah, the idea of the holiday summit came up because last year was my first alcohol-free holiday. And it was great, but I wish I had a resource like this to just kind of push me in the right direction, to get me motivated and inspired, and to have some tips to navigate the holidays, because the holidays can be really tricky for a lot of people. There's a lot of stress with family. There's a lot of celebration too, which always seems to include alcohol. There's a lot of food and drink, and there's just a lot that goes into the holidays. So I was really excited to put this together as a resource for people to use as they go into the holiday season. And so, yeah, we're kicking off next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Those are the dates of the summit. We have 24 speakers, speakers like William Porter, Andy Ramage. We've got Nick Pollard speaking about people pleasing. We've got Amy Edwards talking about faith and sobriety. Let's see who else. We got yourself, Tanya.
Yes. I'm in it.
Yeah, setting healthy holiday boundaries, which is so important. So yeah, we have an incredible lineup of speakers who, first start off by telling their own story of sobriety. And that range can be, it's just incredible listening to these stories, because we have a full spectrum of people who fall along the lines of alcohol use disorder. So we have people who identify with hitting rock bottom, and we have people who've made, life choices just to remove alcohol. So it's a large spectrum. And I challenge people, even if you don't identify with someone's story, to still listen to it, because you can learn a lot from someone's story, even if it doesn't sound like your own. I know I did. As I was listening to all the speaker stories, I came away with a lot of aha moments, even though I didn't directly resonate with that story. So it's really interesting and inspiring when you hear others' stories. So yeah.
So if you want to hear Maggie's full story, it is on last Friday's podcast. So if you go to the Sober on Purpose. So Maggie, when you started, this was about gray area drinking. Can you describe what that actually means?
Yeah. So the gray area drinking is really where I fell into, which happens to be about 70% of the population. So it means you don't identify with being an alcoholic. On the same playing field, you can't take or leave alcohol, right? It's a part of your life. You can't just sit back and be like, I don't want one. No, you got to have that one, right?
Right.
So the Sober Curious movement is really a new trend that I'm just so grateful to be a part of. But it's really this idea of making a life choice to remove alcohol. So it's different than recovery, where, people are, I don't want to say obligated, but really do hit sort of a rock bottom moment and feel like they have no choice but to remove alcohol. The gray area drinking is really someone who identifies with that in-between phase. So it can be someone who's a binge drinker who doesn't drink, a a lot, but when they do, they consume a lot. So they don't drink often, but they consume a lot. It can be a daily drinker. So maybe you don't drink a lot, but you drink often. So that was where I fell. I was a daily drinker, had to have my nightly wine. So you kind of fall into this area where you don't identify with, even the stigma around being an alcoholic of, losing your job, losing your family, losing your home. It's not that. It's really about, this life choice of removing alcohol, and the benefits that everyone can benefit from, even if you drink one glass of wine. It's incredible the difference that you would feel if you removed alcohol, even if you don't identify with even, a larger, farther down in the spectrum. So.
Absolutely. Now, you said a word that not everybody's familiar with is sober curious. So can you describe the sober curious movement and what that means?
Yeah, so sober curious is really that. I think everyone kind of goes through this where you think about it, right? You're drinking and you go, maybe I had too much. Maybe I drink too often. Maybe I'd feel better if I don't drink, right? You kind of have this voice in the back of your head kind of pushing you, this like gut feeling of saying, maybe life would be different if I didn't drink, right? Oftentimes we lay out all of our problems, our issues, our challenges in life, and we can name people and places and things that impact them. But not very often do we say alcohol is the problem. But what we find is that when you remove alcohol, all these other things in your life get exponentially better. So it's this idea of being sober curious in the sense of what would sobriety look like? What would an alcohol-free life look like? Let me try it. So this is where people are doing, sober October and dry January, and they're testing the waters. That's kind of the sober curious movement of, let me just test it, see what life is like. And, oftentimes people don't go back.
And that's kind of your story, which again, I'm going to point people back to the podcast, Sober on Purpose. You can hear all of Maggie's story. It's on the YouTube channel as well. You have some really fabulous guests. Tell us about Nick Pollard and his People Pleaser channel.
So Nick Pollard is somebody who I found because I don't know, Tanya, can you identify with being a people pleaser? I'm definitely one.
Absolutely.
I think so many of us can identify with being a people pleaser. And so when I found him and heard his story on sobriety, I was like, I need to have this guy as part of the Sober Summit, because so many people can identify with being a people pleaser. And as it relates to alcohol, I found myself drinking at times when I didn't really feel like drinking, but wanted to feel part of the group, right? So it kind of goes hand in hand too with Tanya. I was thinking with your topic of setting boundaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those have very similar messages. And how do you set these boundaries? How do you stand up for yourself? How do you say no? And my aha moment from that interview was that it's easier to recover from a no than it is to recover from a yes. And I was like,
wow. Roll that out as far as it's easier to recover from a no than it is to recover from a yes.
So if you say yes and go back and say no, that's more harmful to the other person than if you said no and then end up saying yes.
Got it. So he's going to do a whole interview around people pleasing and what that looks like.
Yeah.
And then you have some other folks that families with addiction in the family would really be interested in. You have Amy Edwards, I believe.
Yes. So she's from Joy on the Other Side Coaching. She has an incredible podcast with her husband, Matt. So she was, her and Matt, she went sober first and then Matt kind of joined her. So they have the Alcohol-Free Marriage and More podcast, which is incredible. So really talking about couples and alcohol-free life and more. Mm-hmm. But she talks about faith and sobriety. And this was actually something that when I sent out the survey to attendees from April, this was one of the topics that was asked for. So I'm really excited to bring it, and it kind of goes two ways. How can faith help you in sobriety, and how can sobriety help you in your faith?
Yes.
It goes both ways. So it was a really, really fantastic interview with Amy. She's so sweet.
That's awesome. You have one of my favorite people, that sugar guy, Maggie Klaassens, because if you are in a situation where there's stress happening, unfortunately, a lot of us immediately turn to the bag of M&Ms, the brownies, the chocolate,
Yeah.
So this is the second time you've talked with Mike. What have you experienced with Mike?
So Mike is the reason why I'm doing this whole summit. So I attended his summits religiously because when I removed alcohol, right, same thing, I started eating sugar. And so I found his summits because he's the host of the Quit Sugar Summit, and he's also owns sugaraddiction.com. He has a book out. So he is like, he calls himself the real sugar-free man, right? He's the sugar-free man. So I was excited to have him on because he actually has a story of recovery. And that's part of the story that he's never told anyone really. So he talks a lot about his sugar addiction, but he hasn't really shared too much about his alcohol addiction prior to that. So I thought it was really important, especially around the holidays when we're, stuffing our face with all sorts of different foods and sweets and things. Like, how do we deal with those sugar cravings that come with alcohol-free life? Because they do. I mean, it's funny too, because they talk to men who are sober, who don't typically or didn't have a sweet tooth beforehand, and all of a sudden they do now. It's really interesting. So
Absolutely. And he has the science to back it up too. That has been my experience in listening to him, is the science that he has for you. You will be shocked at what's going on in your body. And we find that my own sponsor said after her husband quit drinking, they were just buying Pepsi by the truckloads. And she said, I started counting the Pepsis he was drinking. And then, I stopped myself and said, hey, we're at a different stage. We're moving through the next level. So there's some onion peeling back happening in there.
Yeah.
And then you have a very special guy who is going to talk about the psychology and what's going on in the brain when addiction is happening, when you're craving, when all those things are happening. Can you tell us a little bit more about him?
Yeah. So William Porter, he's an icon in the sober community. So he is the author of Alcohol Explained and Alcohol Explained 2. And he was on the Sober Summit in April, and he talked about the physical effects of alcohol. And now he's on talking about more of the mental, emotional effects. And it was really interesting going through that interview with him because it was really hard not to talk about the physical effects, because everyone goes straight to the physical effects, right? How can you sleep better? How can you have more energy? All of these physical benefits that you see. But there's this whole mental and emotional side of it that I think takes a bit more time to regulate after you've removed alcohol, but it does come, and you find yourself being more in the present moment, more calm, right? More rational, right? All these things are sort of the mental and emotional side of it, which are also incredibly important and a really, really valuable benefit of removing alcohol. I think that's one of the things I notice most now is that, I can deal with life a lot better than I could before.
So this is only a sneak peek at 4 of the speakers, right? Give us just a few other teaser topics that folks are really excited about.
Okay, well, I'm really excited to have Bex Weller. So all the way from Australia, she's going to talk about how to socialize alcohol-free during the holiday season. She's incredible because she has written 4 different books. And she was actually the first Quit Lit book I ever read. So it's really special for me to have her on. I'm a huge fan of hers. We have Sarah Kate. She's from Canada. She's from somegoodcleanfun.com. And she and I do kind of like a little cooking show, if you will, making fun and festive mocktails. So she has 3 different recipes that we go through. I'm going to send out the ingredient list tomorrow to everybody so that while you're shopping over the weekend, you can grab some of those ingredients and actually make these fun mocktails with us. So that one was really fun. I have Derek Brown, who talks about how to pair your holiday menu with non-alcoholic beverages, which I think is so important as we are all in this new phase of trying to navigate the holidays, right? How big of an importance do we put on food and drink during the holidays? It's huge. Yeah. So he goes through how to actually pair your holiday menu with some non-alcoholic beverages and his favorite brands. And that was really eye-opening to me too. I'm like, oh, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that. And he shares some incredible recipes with us as well. So that's fun. And then we have Keola Rains talking about how to stay active over the holiday. And then one other really important one, I think, is Chris Marshall. He's the owner of Sands Bar in Austin, and he's a huge wellness advocate. He talks about loneliness, right, and how to cope during the holidays, because I think as much as holidays can be a special, magical, celebratory time, for a lot of people, it's also a very lonely time. So how to deal with that. That was a really fun, while it is a serious topic, he just brings such joy to the conversation. So it was really fun to interview him.
So you're looking at mental, physical, spiritual understandings. And one of the things that was really hard when we quit drinking altogether was, okay, other people are coming up to you saying, I'm uncomfortable with you not drinking. And to learn how to have those responses and to be gracious about it. I'm sure you're going to have speakers who are speaking to that area.
We do. Well. Both William Porter and Bex Weller mentioned their tips on how to navigate holiday parties. So, and actually a few other do. I mean, it was just right. This is a topic that we all kind of navigate towards over the holidays, is tips on how to navigate those holiday parties. So there's a lot of tips in there, but Bex Weller specifically talks about how to socialize over the holidays, alcohol free. So.
Absolutely. Well, then I bring in the whole idea of the family dynamic, what happens when you are supporting someone who is struggling, and that it's a family issue. It is not just something for that one person, and the consideration around that, what to look for around setting your boundaries about being hungry, angry, lonely, tired, all of those things. And I love you're going to pay more for not doing your no than if you do your no up front. That's part of setting boundaries as well. So this is a free summit. Why don't you give us the dates, how to get on it, what to look for. And then the other thing you have is inside there are resources and bonuses and all kinds of just fabulous gifts.
Yeah, all the speakers were incredibly generous. So yes, the Sober Summit Holiday Edition is a free event. It's virtual, so you can just attend through, on your couch in your holiday PJs if you want. But it is a 3-day event. It's free in the sense that every day we'll be unlocking 8 different interviews, and you have 24 hours to access those interviews. So they will go live at 8 a.m. Eastern time on Wednesday, November 8th. We have, again, 24 speakers, 8 speakers a day. If you want extended access to the content, we have the All Access Holiday Pass. So that is extended access to all the interviews. There's a private podcast, so you can listen on the go. I think podcasts are my favorite right now because I could just listen anytime. And then this is what I'm talking about. The speakers have been so incredibly generous. We have over $600 worth of bonus resources as part of that pass. So we have courses and memberships and challenges and guides. I mean, it's just master classes and workshops. I mean, I could go on. It's just incredible. Everyone was so generous to give a piece of their resources to this community. So it's incredible.
And you can go in, get all this information, and then with the All Access Pass, you can spread it out over the next year. You can listen to that podcast again over what's happening with your holidays, because you're right before Thanksgiving. You're going to hit that one. And then guess what? There's going to be another set of holidays.
Yep. There's so many holidays around this time. It's just incredible. So yeah, I like the idea with the All Access Pass, right? There are going to be some interviews that speak to you today. And then maybe in a month from now, you find yourself in a different situation and there's going to be another, interview that speaks to you more. So having that extended access allows you to, pick and choose when you want to, obtain that information and get those tips and resources from that speaker. So.
And you also have it set up so that you can look at what day is most important to you. So I know as a busy mom, sometimes I'm not going to be able to be there for the whole thing, but you can get on your website and go, hey, I absolutely want to see Nick Pollard. I want to make sure that I see Amy Edwards. And we only highlighted a few here. There are an enormous amount of fantastic speakers who are going to be there. So give us the dates one more time. Oh, and we didn't talk about the Facebook group.
Yes, so there's a Facebook group that you get access to if you get your ticket. I should note you have to have a ticket to attend the event. So you can go to thesobersummit.com. I know you're going to post links in there so people can attend. So get your free ticket. You'll then get an email with access to the Facebook group. So it's a really fantastic community of people who are all in the same boat as you, trying to, navigate the holidays alcohol free. So there's a lot of new friendships being formed. There's, Q&As, there's people that are just want to reach out and connect. And I think, as connection is such a huge importance in this journey, to be able to connect with like-minded people. As much as you think your family knows you, it is just so incredibly helpful to have another outside group of people that understands where you're coming from and what you're trying to do. Because not everyone will.
I've been in the Facebook group. I've been poking around in there. There's a lot of wins being shared and a lot of cheering. And if you've got a win of, hey, I quit in October and I didn't start again, or I found this great mocktail recipe, there's a lot of, this is not a depressing group. This is a happy group.
No, we're living life.
Yeah.
And we're there to, also I have to say, it's a non-judgmental space. This community, what I love about this community in particular is that everyone is there to cheer you on. No one judges you if you've, had a slip or a blip or whatever you want to call it, right? Everyone is there to really cheer you on and make sure that you're showing up the way you want to show up in life. So, don't be afraid to. There's a lot of wins, and there's also a lot of people saying, I need some help. I need some encouragement. I need something here. So, there's both of it, and it's a very, very encouraging, supportive group. So
give us those dates one more time. Again, this is the interesting thing about virtual summits. You can the summit is free, but you can come in, buy the pass, and then watch it anytime that works for you. It is not like you have to show up on these specific days, but it is fun to be there with the speakers, be in the Facebook group with the folks. So give us those dates one more time, and I'm going to post the link down here in the chat.
Yeah, so it starts next Wednesday. We'll have a live kickoff call on Tuesday in the Facebook group, but everything kicks off on Wednesday, November 8th, and it goes 3 days. So November 8th, 9th, and 10th. And yes, like you said, check out the schedule. That's also posted in the Facebook group, and you'll get an email with that information. But you can take a look at what speakers are going to go live that day and kind of pick and choose either based on the speaker or the topic that you're interested in. And, I don't expect everyone to be there 8 hours a day.
To be glued to their screen for 8 hours a day. It's going to be that good, but we know that dinner still needs to be made. You still have to go to work, all those types of things. So Maggie, if you had just a tip for people who are going to watch this for their holiday, maybe they don't get to the summit, which would be too bad, but what is a tip that they could walk away with?
Yeah, I think I've said this before, and I don't know if I said it on our podcast, but if I did, I'm sorry, but this is my main tip. Is that if you know what an alcohol-filled holiday is like, you've done it in the past, you know what it's like to wake up Christmas morning, you know what it's like to be stuffed on Thanksgiving, Diwali, Hanukkah, whatever, Kwanzaa, whatever it is that you're celebrating, New Year's. There's so many holidays this time. But if you know what it's like to go through those holidays with alcohol and don't truly know what it's like to go out, to experience them without it, I challenge you to just try. You can always go back next year. And it takes that first step. It's more of the fear of doing it than it is doing it. And once you get through it and you realize, gosh, I did have fun at that party. Those parties have nothing to do with the alcohol. It's all about who you're with, where you are, and how you show up. So I just challenge people to try it. I know it's a hard time to start, but this is trying to provide you with the resources and the inspiration so you can get there.
And you can come to the summit, learn how to make the mocktails, and just have a blast sharing that with your family so that you can. That was one of my biggest nervous things was I don't have a drink to walk around with.
No,
Sparkling water with lime in it, that works. right?
There's
And these
so many
mocktails are
options.
going to be fabulous. So
Yeah.
Maggie, thank you so much for joining us. Go to the Sober on Purpose. Unfortunately, I don't know what episode it is, but listen to all the episodes. But it was one of the recent episodes. Maggie's story is fantastic, and she talks about how the bigger changes, her health changes, her mental changes, the family changes, husband, kids, all of that. So love to have you over there, and hopefully we'll get a chance to do this another time.
I'd love that. Thank you so much for having me, Tanya. Bye,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye.